Welcome to the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media. I'm your host, Ian Kelly. We are here with the Ignorant Thinker podcast himself, ITP, Dennis Holmes. I've had you on the show before. It's always good having you on. Welcome back.
Thank you very much for having me. Glad to be here. Let's do this.
So the 2022 NFL season right down the road. I figured if we're going to do an NFL segment, if we're going to talk about the NFL, I might as well bring on somebody who knows about the NFL, somebody who is very knowledgeable about the game itself. So we're going to do our 2022 NFL season preview. We'll do the NFC this week. AFC will be next week. So for the NFC, we need to start out with your division. We need to start out with the division that is glorious, prestigious, legendary division, and that's the NFC East. Of course, you got the Dallas Cowboys, Philadelphia Eagles, the Washington, whatever the heck you want to call them, and the New Jersey Giants. So when it comes to this division, Dennis, I want to know who is going to win at this division and explain to the audience why you believe this team will win the division this year.
So first of all, let me set this up, man, and let me say, we on Talk Yours Tuesday call them the Washington Commodores. That's what we call them, the Commodores. Lionel Richie and the boys. You understand? So who do I have in this division? Not only, you said a lot of nice things about this division, but you forgot to mention this is the greatest division of NFL history. As you forgot to mention, the most Super Bowls ever by any division. Now let that go. Now, it should be the Dallas Cowboys. They should be the favorites to win it. They should repeat the division. We don't have that many repeat division winners around here. A lot of people like to call us the NFC least. Like people like to call us, such a watered down division. Yeah, you can say what you want, but nobody dominates our division. All right. Nobody can sit there and say we dominated that division for years and years. No, nobody does that. Why? Because we actually come to play in our division and we actually fight. So it should be the Cowboys. A lot of people picking my Eagles. Shout out to the Eagles, between one of them two. I don't see the Giants doing it. I don't believe in their quarterback. But I do love how they buffed up their defense. I do like how they fixed their offensive line. I don't see Washington doing it because they lost pieces on the offensive line, but they did keep their defense together, and they got the Predator coming back off injury, which is known as Chase Young, but I call him the Predator, And I don't believe, Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. I'm not going to say what I believe in, what I don't believe about Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz.
Go right ahead. Hey, this is the Sports Angle.
He is who we thought he was. You know what I mean? I did a lot of hating on him last year, but at the end of the day, it is what it is. He's no longer in Indianapolis. It's now with the Washington football team. We'll see how he does again this year. He's up for another evaluation. The Dallas Cowboys, loaded team, got rid of Amari Cooper, which I thought they should have been got rid of him. But they should have kept Cedric Wilson. That's what I thought was the difference. And I understand you got rid of Amari, but you should have kept Cedric Wilson. Cedric Wilson was a good piece over there. But we'll see how things go. As far as the division is concerned, to me the best wide receiver in the division is Terry McLaurin, Scary Terry. Eagles got the best tight end. Eagles got the best offensive line. Defensive line, I'm going to give it to the Washington football team. Linebackers, I'm going to give it to the Dallas Cowboys. And secondary, I probably would get at the Dallas too. So that's just how. And Dallas got the best quarterback in the game. And running backs, they got the best on them too.
Now, when it comes to the NFC East, like I've said earlier in the show, and I've said on multiple shows in the past, I like the Philadelphia Eagles. I like the potential of the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe that their loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs last year wasn't the end. I think it's the start for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I am not the biggest fan of Jalen Hurts. I don't make that a secret. I don't think Jalen Hurts is a superstar in the NFL. I don't believe that he's going to be a guy that you are going to see plastered on billboards everywhere in the NFL. I don't think he's that guy. Do I see him being a franchise quarterback? Sure. But do I see him being a superstar? Absolutely not. However, we can't deny, Dennis, that when it comes to a franchise quarterback, that can lead you to a playoff run. A franchise quarterback can lead you deep into the playoffs. They're a guy that can win you a division. So when it comes to the Philadelphia Eagles, they are actually my pick to win the 2022 NFC East. I like the quarterback situation. I think the running game has some solid situations. And the fact that you have a wide receiver core that really is one of the best in the NFL, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, who's going to fall out this year. You have a great tight end in Dallas Goedert, like you said, probably the best tight end in that division. And you could make a solid argument the Philadelphia Eagles have the best offensive line in the NFL. You could make that argument. So I will say the Philadelphia Eagles, they will have the best record in the NFC East. They are my pick for the 2022 NFC East, winning the division. So talking about the best of the NFC East, let's flip that script. Let's talk about the worst for a second. Who's going to be the bottom feeder, the punching bag of the NFC East, Dennis? Is it going to be the Washington Commanders, or is it going to be the New Jersey Giants? Who's it going to be?
That's a good question. And it all depends on quarterback play when it comes to them two teams. Those two teams are very similar. I want to say it's going to be Washington, but the Giants can fool you. You know what I mean? Washington has a returning coach. The Giants have a brand new head coach there. So that's a good question. That's a good question. It's a flip of a coin on them two teams. A flip of a coin. Who do you have?
Well, you know what? I'm going to do heads or tails real quick. Heads will be Washington. Tails will be New York. I'm going to say it's heads. I think the Washington Commanders, to me, are the worst team in this division. I don't like Carson Wentz. I don't think that he is a respectable quarterback in the NFL. Outside of Antonio Gibson and Terry McLaurin, I don't believe that there's much talent on that offense out there in Washington. And look, you have a solid defense, but you saw last year that defense can be decimated with injuries. That's a defense that can let up when it needs it the most. So I will say it, the Washington Commanders, the Washington Commodores, the Washington politically correct. When it comes to the Washington football team, they're going to be the worst in the NFC East. I got the Giants in third place. Dallas Cowboys will be in second. And the Philadelphia Eagles, first place winner of the NFC East in 2022. So I want to ask all people watching around the world, watching the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media, who do you have winning the NFC East? Put your prediction in the chat down below. Because I got the Philadelphia Eagles, and I know that you were talking about the Cowboys and Eagles pretty much being nose to nose.
Yeah. It's going to be a fight between them two. They're going to fight.
Well, I mean, it's always a dog fight. I mean, the NFC East is one of the toughest divisions in all of football. It's a bloodbath. Now, moving over to a division that's close to your host, Ian Rakelly's heart, and that's the NFC North. And I'm going to put this out of the way right now. The Chicago Bears are going to be last in this division. They're going to win 4 or 5 games this year. They don't have the talent. They don't have the productivity out there in Chicago. It's not going to done. It's not going to happen. So you have Detroit, you have Minnesota, you have Green Bay. Dennis, who do you have win this division? Who is going to be at the top of the table in the NFC North?
Surprisingly, nobody else believes this but me, but I'm picking what up, though. I'm picking Detroit Lions to win this division. Very tough team, man. You know, the last 5 games, the last 5 games of last season, they ended last season 3-2. You know, they started off with an 0-10-1 record. As a matter of fact, they were 0-11, or they 0-10-1. I don't know. One of them two. But, you know, they finally got everything going along later. You know, the loss of so many defensive backs, not having a number 1 wide receiver really hurt them. And this year they came in, they got some weapons. They're getting back healthy on defensive backs. Their defense, led by Aaron Glenn, plays on a different level than everybody expected. And with the addition added of Aiden Hutchinson, I think I'm saying his name wrong. The addition added to him. Now, I'm not expecting him to go out there and get no 20 sacks. Please don't nobody think like that. But anything more than 8 sacks this season is a plus. That's what I'm saying to you, ladies and gentlemen. Anything more than 8 sacks. That defensive line and that offensive line will anchor Detroit to win this division. Not the quarterback. Let me get that out the way. Not the quarterback.
Of course, you're talking about the best quarterback to come out of Cal, and that is Jared Goff, obviously. So, I will say, you mentioned Detroit. Hold on.
When Jared Goff was at his best, is when he had a running back that was all world, and he had wide receivers in positions that can make passes. You know, I'm not saying that Amari St. Brown is Cooper Kupp, but he's Cooper Kupp-ish, is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that DeAndre Swift is Todd Gurley, but he's Todd Gurley-ish, is what I'm saying.
Hey, Georgia Bulldogs represent.
Hey, that's all I'm saying. This is all I'm saying here. All right. This is when Jared Goff was at his best. This is when he was MVP-ish for a couple weeks in the NFL. Jared Goff. They're giving him the same treatment in Detroit. Don't be surprised.
So to go from one Cal quarterback to the next Cal quarterback, the Green Bay Packers, we know what happened this offseason. They lost Devontae Adams, the best wide receiver in the NFL. So are you saying Detroit's going to win division? Are you saying that Green Bay is going to take a step back this year? They're not going to be the dominant Green Bay Packers who have dominated the NFC North for the last 500 years? Is that what you're implying?
No, I don't see them dominating the NFC North like they used to. I just see them taking a step back. You know, not a big step, but just a step back. Like, you know, they lost that division. You'll see when Week 18, when the Green Bay Packers play the Detroit Lions for the division, you'll see that you'll be sitting there thinking like that damn Ignorant Thinker podcast got something. I don't know what it is.
Well, one team that we're forgetting about when we're talking about the NFC North is the Minnesota Vikings, the Purple People Eaters. You know, the Grady King himself, Justin Jefferson, as the face of the franchise out there in Minnesota. But I want to ask you, Minnesota Vikings, they have the core pretty much intact from the last two seasons. You got Dalvin Cook, you got Kirk Cousins, you have Adam Thielen, of course, Justin Jefferson. So is Minnesota going to be a fringe playoff team, or are you just tossing them out like, nah, you're not it?
They might get 9 wins. They might get 9 wins.
So NFC North, you got the Detroit Lions. I'm going to be very predictable. I'm going to be vanilla. I got the Green Bay Packers winning this division. Green Bay Packers, they'll get about 10 or 11 wins. They will do what Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers have done for the last decade and a half, which is do enough to win a division and then lose to the 49ers in the divisional round. All right, that is what Green Bay is going to do. They're going to do great in the regular season and then lose to an average quarterback in the playoffs. So I got Green Bay win that division. Minnesota finishing second. I like the core. I like the defense. They have a well-built machine out there in Minnesota. Detroit will be around 500. They will finish behind Minnesota in the division. And then the Chicago Bears, one of the worst teams in football this year, they will finish last in the NFC North. So as we were doing our 2022 NFL season preview here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media, I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. We're here with Dennis Holmes from the Ignorant Thinkers podcast. And I'm just going to put this up here because I think you know my answer, Dennis.
Obviously, everybody knows your answer. I'm trying to figure out why we even talk about the South. Hell, everybody knows your answer. But since we can't say the Bucks, you know, I don't have nobody dethroning them. I don't believe in the Saints like everybody else does. I really don't. You know, there's a new coach there. You know, James is coming back as QB. I hope he does well. Because if he don't, you know, there's a lot of Jameis fans out there that just say, you know, they say I'm a hater, so it is what it is. Besides Jameis Winston and the Saints defensively still should be okay. You know, they had upgraded with the Honey Badger and stuff like that.
Hey, great defense, so top 2 in the league. Yeah, great defense.
They should be okay. I don't see them, you know, I still see them being top 10 defense. If not, then you know that team's done. I hope Michael Thomas plays this year. Let me say that part too. The Atlanta Falcons are a young team, and I like where this young team is going. Their offensive line is young, and they can run block their ass off. It's pass blocking that's the issue. They can run block their ass off. I mean, they made Cordell Patterson out to be damn near a special running back out there. And they don't have no wide receivers, but they have a hell of a tight end, and they drafted Drake London. I like where Atlanta's going. I just wish they had a better quarterback to lead the way. That's the only thing I wish different. I like where they're going. They're young.
Marcus Mariota fan? You don't believe Marcus Mariota?
Nah, neither one of them. Marcus Mariota or Jameis Winston. I don't believe in neither one of them. Don't believe in neither one of them.
So is it going to be Ritter time sometime during the season then? If you don't believe in Marcus Mariota, they'll put Desmond Ritter in at some point?
Yes, I do think Ritter should be in by week 8. That's what I do believe. Now, on to one of the most disappointing coaches that I've seen out there. We're going to the Carolina Panthers. And you got 2 quarterbacks from the same draft now playing for you. So you spent almost $40 million on the quarterback position for 2 guys to fight out for the QB position. Now, I don't know how you got this going. I don't know where you want this to go. But if this doesn't accumulate to you being second in this division, I don't see you staying there too long. I see you getting fired, Matt Rule. Now I know you got an all-world running back. We all know if he's healthy, he's all-world. We all know that. And I know that you got some receivers that can play, especially DJ Moore. Shout out to DJ Moore. But I just don't see where all this is going around. I don't see where all this is going. Brian Burns, he's going to be nice. You got some pieces, but are you going to be able to put it all together? This is what I'm trying to say. Because the Carolina Panthers should be trying to dethrone the Bucs for this division, but it don't look like that's going to happen.
Well, I mean, the NFC South feels like you could take a nap talking about it. I mean, I was feeling tired just, thinking about the Atlanta Falcons and Carolina Panthers putting me to sleep already. But since it's a division you have to talk about, look, as long as Tom Brady's the quarterback at Tampa Bay, they're good enough. They have enough talent. They're trying to create a super team, adding Julio Jones and all that talent onto the wide receiver core. So Tampa Bay is going to run away with NFC South. New Orleans Saints will finish second. They'll be around 500. And then Carolina, Atlanta, they'll battle for last place. So I got Tampa Bay, New Orleans, Carolina, then Atlanta. Now,
and I don't understand when everybody hypes up this Julio Jones situation. Julio Jones going to Tampa Bay is just as efficient as AB going to Tampa Bay. They're going to do the same exact thing. I don't understand what everybody's hype is about the situation.
Well, look, it'd be a super team if it was 5 years ago. I mean, Julio Jones and Tom Brady would be your fantasy football team in 2018.
Right, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's Julio Jones and it's Tom Brady. I mean, it is what it is. If Julio can stay healthy throughout the whole season, this would be. That's all I want him to do. I want him to make it to the playoffs. That's it. I don't care about anything else.
And before we move over to the NFC West side of it, you mentioned the Atlanta Falcons. You mentioned the quarterback situation. Well, there was a report that came out that Bryce Young, the quarterback from Alabama, there's about 5 teams that might be in the tank for Bryce sweepstakes for 2022. You think Atlanta might be one of them, or maybe Carolina might be one of those teams that tries to tank the season to get Bryce Young if he's there at number 1?
If there's a team that should tank for Bryce, there's a couple of teams that actually come to mind, to be honest with you. But I don't think that they will do it. But there's a couple of teams that actually come to mind. Like I would say I wouldn't be surprised if Minnesota went after Bryce. I wouldn't be surprised if Atlanta, Carolina. I wouldn't be surprised.
A team like New York, for example?
Yeah. I just wouldn't be surprised by none of those. Wouldn't be surprised at all.
So So doing the 2022 NFL season preview here on the Sports Angle
And
on
and,
PR
and the
Connections
Seattle
Radio.
and the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah, Seattle Seahawks. There you go. And speaking of that, NFC West, the Los Angeles Rams, the 2021 Super Bowl champions, the recent winners out there in the NFC West. Arizona Cardinals made the playoffs. 49ers made the playoffs. You got, Cooper Kupp. You got Cooper Kupp time out there in Los Angeles. So I need to ask you, Dennis, and everyone watching around the world, is this the Rams division to lose? Or is there a team out there like Arizona or San Francisco that could make a run this year and actually go up against LA head-to-head?
Well, this is the Rams division to lose. Let's get that out the way. But they lose it to the San Francisco 49ers. And my dark horse MVP, Treyway. I just want to make that clear. They lose it to the San Francisco 49ers and my dark horse MVP, Treyway. Now, the Arizona Cardinals will come in third because they will have a struggle this year, but it might still be enough for them to make the playoffs. It might be enough for them to make the playoffs, but they're coming in third.
And then Seattle is just Seattle.
Yeah, Seattle's tanking. We ain't even worried about Seattle. Seattle's tanking.
So last year, the NFC West, you had, once again, a trio of teams make the playoffs. Do you think that will happen again, where there will be a trio of teams that make the playoffs out of one division? Because you got to understand that pretty much means you got one division winner and two wild cards.
Wild cards, yeah. I can see it happen. I definitely can see it happen. I can see San Fran going 13-3. This San Francisco team is, I'm not going to say it all the way, but their biggest concern was the quarterback position in my eyes. So now they get a guy who's not only good at what he does, but he's actually going to be like magic behind it. I'm not going to sit here and say he's Patrick Mahomes. That's not what I'm going to say. So don't nobody go there and say, "Oh, this is
hey, why not? Why not? Just go make that leap. Go ahead."
No, I'm not saying he's Patrick Mahomes. But I want y'all to go back and I want y'all to think about this. Second-year QBs have some magical seasons. I want y'all to go back and think about it. Second-year QBs have some magical seasons. I want y'all to think about it and look it up. We just seen in the Super Bowl last year, it was Joe Burrow in the Super Bowl in his second season. Magical season. You seen Lamar Jackson win MVP in his second season. Magical season. You've seen Patrick Mahomes win MVP in his second season. Magical season. You've seen Carson Wentz have an MVP-ish year in his second season. Magical season. You've seen Derek Carr had the best season in his career in his second year. Magical season.
Hey, you know what? We can even add more and more. Russell Wilson winning a Super Bowl, his second season. Tom Brady winning a Super Bowl, his second season. Ben Roethlisberger winning a Super Bowl, his second season.
Hey, man, hey, I'm not making this up here, baby. Listen, second-year quarterbacks have magical seasons. Do not be surprised if Treyway comes out there with a magical season.
Hey, you know what? I appreciate all people watching around the world. And you know what, Thomas? It could be 10 million right now. It'll be 100 million by the end of the year. That's going to be the goal. 100 million people by the end of the year watching the Sports Angle on PR Radio.
And millions. You know what I mean?
Hey, you banking on Lance. You know what? People are picking on you already. You're banking on Trey Lance.
We was doing the show together in April, and I said Treyway was going to be a dark horse MVP. MVP-ish season coming out of Treyway.
Hey, technically, North Dakota State is Division I football. It's FCS, not FBS, but it's still Division I football.
That is what it is. All right. He can play.
Well, the reason I bring up that question is because I don't see the NFC West having a trio of teams making the playoffs. I have the NFC North being the division that gets a trio of teams making the playoffs. I got the NFC North.
So you got what up though making the playoffs, huh? You believe in them like I do, huh? It's a little ignorant thinking you after all, huh?
This is going to be a great
Okay.
segue because we're going to be doing our predictions. You got your 7 teams making the playoffs in the NFC. I got my 7 teams making the playoffs in the NFC. Then we will compare them side by side and see, who's similar and what's not. So, Dennis, I will have you start out. Who at 7 teams do you have making the playoffs in the NFC?
Let's do this. All right. 7 teams I got. I got the Eagles, I got the Cowboys. I have the Detroit Lions and the Green Bay Packers. I got the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. All right. And I have the San Francisco 49ers and the LA Rams.
You know what? I'm just going to dissect this real quick, and I'm going to ask one question. If the Cowboys make it, do they lose to the 49ers in the divisional round once again?
Actually, they play the Rams in the divisional round. They play the Rams in the wild card.
All right.
In LA.
Because what would be a perfect world, Dennis, would be this. The Cowboys lose to the 49ers, and then the Packers lose to the 49ers. To me, that would be a perfect scenario. Because the 49ers...
What would be a perfect world for me is if the Eagles play the LA Rams in a wild card. And then after that, go play Tampa Bay in the divisional. That would be a perfect
world. Are you still upset about the 2002?
I am still upset. That's right. That's right.
So shout out to Buck Flair, by the way. I know he watches all his shows. I know he does. Shout out to Buck Flair.
Shout out to Buck Flair. Shout out to AB out there too, man. All my Tampa Bay fans. Nothing but love for him.
And, as the comments are rolling in here, I want everybody's voice to be heard here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. I like it. Lions, Packs, and Vikes. You know it. And the Lions have one of the best offensive lines. Really, you could say they have the best offensive line in the NFL. Philadelphia Eagles around the same way. And Blaze, I appreciate your comment. I'll put it up on the screen right now. You have the Eagles, Packers, Buccaneers, Cardinals, Rams, Vikings, and Cowboys.
He don't have the 49ers, huh?
No, he does not. Apparently, he is not with Trey Way. No, he's not.
You don't believe in Trey Way, huh?
No, he does not think that Trey Lance is going to do what Joe Burrow did last year. Apparently, he doesn't think so. Okay, the AFC edition is next week. If you want to hear me talk about the Raiders 15 minutes, go to the AFC edition next week. Yeah, because I'm not going to be betraying the Raiders on this episode. Believe me, I already got a lynching squad and I already got a firing squad ready for me because of all the stuff I talk about the Raiders. Now, hey, Kings ROG. Yeah, you've been on the show before. Got to shout you out.
Oh, he definitely ain't picking the 49ers.
Cowboys, Packers, Saints, Rams, Eagles, Bucks, and Vikings. The fact that he put your Eagles on there actually surprises me, considering the.
He's actually as much as I like Dak Prescott, he likes Jalen Hurts.
And that is what I'm surprised about. Like, I'm actually surprised about that. So when it comes to my picks for the 2022 NFL playoffs, the NFC part of it, I have the Philadelphia Eagles winning the NFC East. That's one. I have the Green Bay Packers, Detroit Lions, and Minnesota Vikings coming out of the NFC North. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they're going to destroy the NFC South. And then you have the San Francisco 49ers and Los Angeles Rams coming out of the NFC West. So, Dennis, this was yours. Here was your picks, all things that you put out. What do you think about them? Do you think they're pretty good so far?
Yeah, it sounds pretty good. I see the Arizona Cardinals fighting. I think they're gonna end up fighting the Cowboys to get in.
There's always going to be that one team that just misses it. Last year it was the Saints. They were a team that just was on the cusp of losing. And if you're Ron Thomas, he always believes the Atlanta Falcons could have made the playoffs last year despite being eliminated by Week 16. But I digress.
Right. Yeah, he said they won 7 games last year. I guess he expected them to win 8. I don't see 8.
All right, so just to recap it, here is what Dennis's picks were, and here is what my picks were. So there's a little bit of a difference, but, we have 6 out of the 7 picked.
Oh, you don't have the Cowboys. Wow.
I do not have the Dallas Cowboys. No, I do not. I don't think the Dallas Cowboys are a playoff team this year. I do not.
Oh, wow. They don't make the playoffs. That means Mike McCarthy's getting fired.
I mean, if you want to start this rant for a minute, I think Mike McCarthy should have been fired last year. I'm not a fan of Mike McCarthy. I don't think that he's a great coach in the NFL. He should have been gone a long time ago.
I've been saying that since the day he was hired as the Dallas Cowboy. I said that was the wrong coach to get.
And you know what? I'll say this again. The fact that Jason Garrett had more success with the Dallas Cowboys than Mike McCarthy has had should really show you that, the clapping man himself, he wasn't really that bad of a coach.
They're pretty good announcing yesterday, though. I'll give them that. They're pretty good yesterday on announcing. Looked good too in the suit. Should have put a suit on the sideline.
Yeah, he most definitely should have. Now, when it comes to the NFL, we were doing our NFL playoff predictions for 2022 on the NFC side of it. And I actually think it's interesting that Blaze brought up this excellent point. The Cowboys only have one current receiver active right now that's caught an NFL pass. That's going to have a lot to do with Dak Prescott really not having anybody to pass to. He really doesn't have anybody he can go to.
Most wide receivers out there. It depends on if you want them or not.
Yeah, isn't Odell Beckham still a free agent?
No doubt. Yeah. Antonio Brown. Since everybody like to bring his name up. Antonio Brown. Wide receivers out there. Depends on if you want them or not. If you need to make a trade for a wide receiver, I know a guy. I got a guy for you in Philly. He needs a home. Jalen Rager. He needs a home.
How about a pack of gum and some sunflower seeds?
If you throw in the season pass, you got it. you throw in the season pass, you got it.
Now, I'm going to go to a poll question we did on our Twitter account at SportsAngle on PR. And the poll question I asked was, what orange-colored NFL team will win the most games this year? Cincinnati Bengals, Denver Broncos, or Cleveland Browns? So, Dennis, I'll start with you. Who do you got winning the most games out of the orange-colored teams in the NFL this year? You got Cleveland, Cincinnati, or Denver? Who do you got?
Well, you know how the trends are nowadays. I was talking about trends, and then things are trending. They say the quarterback that goes to the new team usually wins the Super Bowl. So I'm going with the Denver Broncos and not the Cleveland Browns because the Cleveland Browns quarterback is suspended for 6 weeks.
It might not even be 6 games. They're trying to suspend him for a whole entire year. However, I'm actually going to disagree. I think the Cincinnati Bengals are going to win the most games this year out of all 3 of those. Cincinnati Bengals, they're going to have a lot of great players coming back from the year before. I also appreciate what Cincinnati has done in terms of roster building. So I got Cincinnati. Denver would be a close second, and then Cleveland would be third.
Yeah, but Cincinnati ain't want to pay Jesse Bates. So, which I don't understand why, because they ain't paying nobody.
Yeah, he'll be some collateral.
Okay, we'll see. First preseason game next week, so Jesse Bates ain't going to be there for that.
And then one final poll question from our Twitter at SportsAngle on PR. Who has the best offensive line in the NFL? Is it the Philadelphia Eagles, Detroit Lions, or the Cleveland Browns?
It might be us. Might be the Eagles. Might be we actually got depth at offensive line. We got backups and everything, man. Like this is this O-line group we got here is ridiculous. We
You
could
do
trade
have a
away
lot
some
of talent
offensive
out there in
linemen.
Philadelphia. I'll give you that.
We could trade away some offensive linemen and still be good.
You know, Philadelphia to me is number 2. Like Philadelphia, they are second place, but I gotta go with the best offensive line in the NFL, and that's the Detroit Lions. The Detroit
Okay.
Lions, they have so much talent on offensive line. Interesting enough, they actually have the highest paid offensive line in the NFL. In fact, that's the one position they spend the most money more than anybody else in the NFL. So you got Frank Ragnow, you got Taylor Decker, you have Penny Sewell, who was a great decision for them last year. So when it comes to Detroit Lions, I got them as the best offensive line in the NFL. Philadelphia would be second right behind them.
I wonder, do they still got Big V over there?
They do. They do.
Wow.
Yeah, Big V, former Eagle.
Yeah. That's good. That's
And I know that the Hall of Fame game happened recently. Jacksonville Jaguars, Las Vegas Raiders, the first game of the NFL season in 2022. Dennis, did you watch that game? And if you did, what was your thoughts and opinions on it?
I watched the game. The one thing that I do want to say is, and I know the game has to be played in Ohio, but it seemed like it's always a rain situation on this game. If this ain't always the rainiest day of the year, I don't know what it is, but the Hall of Fame game seems like it's always the rainiest day of the year. I don't know why. Don't ask me why. I ain't got an answer, but for the rain delay and everything that went on with it, like, nah, you gotta. I feel as though you need to put this game in the dome. That's how I feel about it. And I know they're not going to do it, but I feel as though you need to put it in the dome because if it would have kept raining the way it did, it might have got to a point where you had to cancel another Hall of Fame game. And you have canceled a couple before. So are you just going to keep canceling them, or are you just going to say, we'll put it in the dome and, we'll fly everybody back for the Hall of Fame? Now,
I think what
besides
they
that,
need to do is actually move the location. I've really not been a fan of the game being in Canton. I understand the significance of it. I understand why they play it in Canton. But
right.
How about you have the Hall of Fame game, it being played in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium, or maybe having it being played, at the Marlins Park in Miami, or something like that, where pretty much they have it at a,
somewhere there's a dome. That's all I see. Somewhere's a dome.
Right.
That's all I say. As long as it's a dome, not too far away that they could come back and still see the Hall of Fame moments is going to have. I think they happen tomorrow. Or they happen Sunday.
They happen Sunday, I believe Sunday.
Yeah, they can still come back and still see them on Sunday. Just have it in the dome. That's all. Just have it in the dome and fly everybody out over there. That way we get a good, legit game. Temperature is going to be, neutralized. Everything will be all right. It was a good game, though. Not going to lie. It was a good game. It was good to see Doug Peterson back out there. It was bittersweet, though, to see him out there on another team, But I always said, us losing Dougie P, I'm going to miss that. He was a hell of a coach. He wasn't a good choice for me. I didn't think he was going to be this good of a coach, but he stole my heart. It's a guy who stole my heart, and I said, that's my motherfucking coach, Dougie P. So,
well, it's an unfortunate situation happened in Philadelphia because you have to remember they hated Andy Reid, so they got rid of him. They brought
it
in
wasn't a hate. It wasn't a hate. He just thought he was due. He was due to go. They needed something fresh.
They brought in an absolute train wreck in Chip Kelly. So They realized all they wanted was Andy Reid, so they went and got Doug Peterson, who was very similar to Andy Reid.
Right.
And then, by the way, Nick Sirianni, I actually like. I think he's got a lot of potential. Now, when it comes to the NFL, here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, I'm your host, Dean Kelly. We're here with Dennis Holmes from the Ignorant Thinkers podcast. For all the people watching on YouTube, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and turn on notifications so you not miss any episode of the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. This is episode 20, and we got plenty of other episodes coming down the line.
That is true.
And Azar, next week is the AFC preview. So that thing you just posted, save that, copy and paste, and bring it on to next week's show. I'll definitely be able to read it for you. Now, the last segment here for the NFL before we do a little bit of the NBA, and then we do a second hour of the NHL here with your host, Ian Kelly. The best quarterback in the NFC. Who is the best quarterback in this conference?
Who is
Dennis,
currently the best quarterback? Who is currently the best quarterback is Aaron Rodgers. Got to give him his respect. It's Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback currently. Who do I think will be the best quarterback when the season's over? Fuck it, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. Treyway. Fuck it, it's gonna be Treyway. Go ahead and say it.
Treyway.
Treyway. Aaron Rodgers.
And while we're waiting for everybody around the world to post their answers, you said Treyway, you're saying Aaron Rodgers, but here's where I respectfully disagree with you, Dennis, and I will explain why. The best quarterback in the NFC right now, in terms of accomplishment, in terms of what he has done, is Tom Brady. Tom Brady is the best quarterback in the NFC as of right now. Who I think will be the best quarterback afterwards, who I think will be the best quarterback after this season, however, is going to be a very controversial one. I know there's going to be some people who are going to be happy I say this. There are going to be some people who are going to be mad at me for saying this. I do not care. The quarterback I have being the best in the NFC after this season is Matthew Stafford. I got Matthew Stafford being the best quarterback in the NFC after this season. I believe that Matthew Stafford has proven that he could be a top quality quarterback in the NFL. He's proven it.
He led the league in interceptions last year. Tied with Trevor Lawrence.
So wasn't Ryan Tannehill up there as well?
I don't know. I know he threw 41 touchdowns, but he was tied in interceptions. All I'm saying is he had too many pick sixes. Not the guy I believe in.
He is not the guy that Dennis Holmes believes in. Okay.
Not the guy I believe in. Good choice, though. I don't think he's the best quarterback in his division.
You think it's Treyway?
No. It's currently right now, it's Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray. Okay, I'd love to explain that.
Kyler Murray is the best quarterback in his division. That's how I currently feel right now. Now, when the season's over, it'll be Treyway. But right now, as we're currently speaking, Kyler Murray is the best quarterback in his division. I don't believe that Matthew Stafford is better than Kyler Murray.
When it comes to Kyler Murray, the amount of lack of playoff success is the reason why I can't put him over Matthew Stafford. I mean, Matthew Stafford winning that Super Bowl, being able to be clutch in big games, that's the reason why I got him over Kyler.
Okay. We'll see, but okay.
We will see. Now, we have about a half hour left before we go over to hour 2, where I break down the NHL here on Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. But let's move over to the NBA because there is an interesting topic going on right now that I believe you, Dennis, would be very interested in. And that is the Los Angeles Lakers have been talking to LeBron James about giving him a 2-year contract extension worth $98 million. Now, this guy is going to be 39 years old. This is a guy who has been in the NBA for a long time. Dennis, if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, if you are the management of LA, are you willing to commit a 2-year deal for LeBron James?
Yes. I know a lot of Laker fans will say no, but LeBron is still playing at a high level. Hell, he's still in MVP races at 30. What is he? He ain't 39 yet. He's 38 right now. He'll be 39 this year. I think that's what it is. Something like that. But man, he's still in MVP races. I will commit to him. But I do also need to make sure that we have enough to get to the postseason to make it to a championship. You know, the LA Lakers are a team who has I'm probably saying the wrong word right now, so I'm not gonna say it. They are a championship team. So to them, every year is championship or bust. That's what it is to them.
Well, see, the thing about the Los Angeles Lakers that yes, they have the pedigree, they have the prestige.
Pedigree.
I understand that. But when it comes to the Lakers, I think the biggest problem is that when they gave the extensions at the same time to AD and LeBron, they actually kind of handicapped themselves when they did it. Because, they have to have a lot of veteran minimum contracts. They have guys on rookie deals. They pretty much had to sacrifice the entire kitchen sink to make sure that two guys were getting paid the extensions that they were. So when it comes to the Lakers, I actually don't like it. I actually think that if you're the Los Angeles Lakers, when AD's is up, when LeBron's is up, you move on, you start over, and you bring in a bunch of new guys, you bring in some young players from the Lakers organization, and you build up the roster again. Because, you've had LeBron for 4 years, you've had AD for 3 years, that's fine. But I think if you're the Lakers, it's time for you to move on and go a different direction.
But I don't think they have any draft picks for another 3 years.
As the consequences of having LeBron James on your team, you sacrifice a lot of your draft picks and a lot of your young capital.
Right. So that's why I said you might as well keep them and could compete for a championship. Like I said, with the Lakers, it's championship or bust. So there is no, we had a good season, we made it to the second round. That Laker fans don't say that. Lakers don't believe that. As we made it to the championship and we won.
So they're essentially the Yankees of the NBA.
I guess you would say
championship or bust.
It's every year, championship or bust. That's exactly what I believe about the Lakers.
And speaking of championship or bust, there's all the talks about Damian Lillard right now. Do you believe that Damian Lillard will retire without a championship?
No, they'll have one. They'll have a championship. Damian Lillard will have a championship. He may not be the superstar on the team, but he'll have a championship.
So will it be like Gary Payton? Will it be like one of those guys, veteran at the end of his career, going someplace else?
And what he got to do is, I'm really big on young, hungry, talented teams. I'm really big on. That's why I'm so big on the Detroit Lions and the San Francisco 49ers, because they're young, hungry, talented teams. When it comes to basketball, I'm big on OKC and Memphis because they're a young, hungry, talented team. Dallas is too. Dallas Mavericks, another young, hungry, talented team. But OKC and Memphis, those two teams I'm really big on because I really feel as though through drafting and through making a couple of trades, they got it right. And now all they got to do is go out there and play basketball. Those guys don't care who they're playing against. They just want a ball. So when it comes to older guys like a Damian Lillard, who's eventually going to be out of his prime, or Kevin Durant, who's looking around seeing where he wants to go, or a
James Harden.
James Harden made it to Philly, so he found his fountain of youth. Chris Paul going to Phoenix to get his fountain of youth. That's the move is gonna have to be. You're gonna have to go somewhere to get your fountain of youth. And I wouldn't be surprised if in 2 years Dame Lillard went to the Orlando Magic and turned them into champions.
Orlando Magic.
Oh. Orlando Magic.
Okay.
Fountain of youth. Remember I said that. Fountain of youth.
Okay. Well, I actually thought you were going to say he would join the Golden State Warriors as a bench player in 2027, as a backup.
Shout out to the Warriors, man. I doubted the Warriors all season long last year. They came out to be victorious as champs, NBA champs, and shout out, they're the world champs. Shout out to the Oakland Warriors.
San
Golden
Francisco
State
Warriors, Oakland Warriors, Philadelphia Warriors, what the heck you want to call them, Warriors nonetheless. Now,
Shout out to the Warriors.
I actually will say that no, he is not going to win a ring. I think that Damian Lillard will be the modern era of Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley, he went from, 3 different teams. He tried to win a championship each time, but he eventually was a guy who just could not get the job done. And by the way, shout out to Sharon Mullen, by the way. Shout out to Chocolate Girl. And by the way, Dennis, promote your show on Saturdays. Promote that real quick.
Ladies and gentlemen, each and every Saturday, make sure y'all tune into the Side Joint each and every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Facebook Live. Make sure you subscribe to the Ignoranthinkers podcast on all social media platforms so you don't miss a show. As we coming to you every Saturday morning, every Monday, every Tuesday, and every Wednesday. And the Sports Angle will be to you every Friday here on the PRConnectionsRadio.com.
Absolutely, you know it. PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, every Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. Now, continuing with the NBA conversation, we have about 8 minutes left in the first hour. And Dennis, when it comes to the NBA, Steph Curry, he won, the championship, so Golden State Warriors. Will Steph Curry, when he retires, will he be top 5? Will he be a top 5 player all time once he retires?
That's a good question. I don't think he will. He should be, but I don't think he will. That's a good question. Well deserved. Did everything he was supposed to do. I don't think he will.
So who would be your top 5? Like, as of right now, if you had to lay it out, who would be your top 5 then?
Top 5 right now. Let me see. I think you got Kareem, Mike. People will say Magic, Bill Russell. Number 5, I'll say Larry Bird.
We're a little bit different. I got Kareem as the greatest basketball player of all time. Michael Jordan, I'd have him at number 2, the greatest NBA player of all time. LeBron, I'd have him at 3, one of the best IQ when it comes to basketball. I mean, his IQ is off the charts. I have Magic Johnson at 4. He could play so many positions. This was a guy who really showed that you could be versatile and you could be great in the NBA. And then number 5, I got Bill Russell. Bill Russell, RIP to him, but he was really a trailblazer, the trendsetter of the NBA.
Yeah, you can either put LeBron or Larry Bird. Depends on how you feel. I agree with that. Not bad, Bob.
And I guess one last question I would ask before we, move on to the next segment is, when it comes to the NBA, and shout out to Sharon Mullen, by the way, she has Shaq, Kobe, Kareem, Magic, and Jordan. That's the list she got. Now, that was top 5 all time, but who would be top 5 right now? As of active players? Dennis, if you had to say, these are the 5 best players in the world right now, who would it be?
My 5. Who was my 5 this year? I had Ja, Luka, Giannis. I think I gave it to DeMar DeRozan and Jokic. That was my 5.
When it comes to the 5 with the NBA, I am somebody that I look at it. Nikola Jokic has been phenomenal. I like Joel Embiid. Surprisingly, I'm going to shout out Joel Embiid here. But I do like Joel Embiid. I think he's still got what it takes. I like Giannis. I mean, this is a guy who's been revolutionary ever since he really took off. KD, when he plays the full season, he is a top 5 talent. Yes. And then if I had to do one last player, if I had to put one last player on that list, you know what? Give me Luka. I think Luka is a guy who could round out the top 5 when it comes to the best players right now. And Azar, you got Jordan, Braun, Magic, Bird, and Dream. And then you had KD, Giannis, Joker, DeRozan.
I put DeRozan in mine too. I just don't have KD. I got Ja. And we got all the same thing, but Ja. I put DeRozan in mine too. A lot of people hate on DeRozan, but DeRozan was bomb.
I don't hate DeRozan. I think he's top 10, but I don't know if he's top 5. Like, I have him, like, planted in the top 10, but I don't know about top 5. And to me, John Morant, he's the future of the NBA. You know, I feel like he's a guy who's 1 or 2 years away from being the best NBA player in the league. I genuinely do.
Yeah.
So, Dennis, it's been a fantastic show. I mean, it's been 1 hour of content here on the Sports Angle on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. So, Dennis, you know, take about 2 minutes. Tell everybody all the projects you're working on. Tell everybody where they can find you.
First of all, you can find me everywhere that says Ignoranthinkers Podcast. That's Instagram, that's Twitter, that's TikTok, that's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. So you can find me anywhere there. Dennis Holmes as well. We're still a work in progress on certain things, so just check us out because every Tuesday we got a show, Talk US Tuesday. Every Wednesday we got Wild Wednesday. Every Monday we BJ has a show called What's Next Podcast, and yeah, every Friday is you. So that's the spot. Oh yeah, and every Tuesday after Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, and Stay Tuned Live. Sorry about that. Stay tuned
with Joshua Bailey. You know, I got to bring Joshua Bailey back on the show at some point. I've had him on before. Definitely need to bring him back on.
Most definitely.
But yeah, Dennis, thanks for coming on the show, and you're welcome back anytime.
Oh, man, thanks a lot for having me, and God bless. Great day to everybody.
All right. So we're going to be doing our NHL segment for the next hour of this show. We have a lot of amazing hockey content for all people around the world, especially here in Las Vegas, Nevada, the sports entertainment capital of the world. So if you're a big hockey fan, definitely stay tuned for that. And I also will say to all people watching around the world, I appreciate all of your support. And definitely, Dennis Holmes, thanks for coming on the show. Ignoranthinkers Podcast, amazing content that they have on there. Now, in the NHL, the Vegas Golden Knights, the 31st team in the NHL, the local team of the Sports Angle and PR Connections Radio, they are in a bit of a problem right now. The Vegas Golden Knights have a situation where, unfortunately, they need to make one trade. They need to move one player here in Las Vegas. Now, there's been reports that have come out that the Vegas Golden Knights are going to try to use long-term IR to get under the salary cap. There's been reports that the Vegas Golden Knights will use Shea Weber's $7.8 million cap hit and will put it under the books in order to stay under the salary cap. Now, as much as I would love to say that that is just going to be done and over with, we have to be realistic. The Vegas Golden Knights only have 16 of their 23 players signed to player contracts for next year. That is 7 roster spots that are going to have to be filled by October 5th. This is also the same Vegas Golden Knights team as traded away Max Pacioretty, one of their best goal scorers, and traded away the young defenseman and Dylan Coghlan to the Carolina Hurricanes so they could sign Riley Smith to a 3-year, $15 million deal. So the Vegas Golden Knights have had to shed salary. They've had to mess up cap space. They let go of Marc-Andre Fleury, the face of their franchise, traded him to Chicago. Vegas is not the same team they once were. However, Vegas needs to still make that move. Vegas needs to implement an idea of, you know what, we're going to be a above average team this year. We are going to be a playoff team at best in the 2022-2023 NHL season. So we need to execute a trade today. So if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, if you're watching the NHL world, you're seeing all these teams being strapped for cash. Well, you can't go to Vancouver. You can't go to Pittsburgh. You can't go to Philadelphia. Understand that when it comes to the NHL, about a dozen teams are nearly at the cap ceiling or above the cap ceiling. So Vegas is not going to be able to trade with any of them. So who do you go after exactly? Who is going to be an organization that you have to go after if you are the Vegas Golden Knights in order to get rid of a certain player? Because you got to understand that when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, they are $2.7 million over the cap, and that involves the latest signing of Keegan Kolazar to a 3-year deal worth $4.2 million. Understand that this is a Vegas Golden Knights squad that's in need to get something done quick. So, let me toss an idea out to you. Let me give this proposal. Now, William Karlsson, he makes $5.9 million, 29 years old. He has been regressing every single year with the Vegas Golden Knights. But what would you be able to get if William Karlsson was traded for nothing? And this isn't like the Max Pacioretty deal. This isn't like that situation at all. No. What if the Vegas Golden Knights traded William Karlsson for literally nothing? Now, you might be asking yourself, in the NHL world, how often does a trade like that happen? Where a team will trade a bad contract for literally nothing. Cash considerations, future considerations, for undisclosed amount. It's actually not uncommon. Understand that the NHL and the NBA, the way that their contracts are lined up and the way that they are signed, it makes a lot of wiggle room for these teams to occur. So, if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, I don't think you should trade Jonathan Marchessault. I don't think you should trade Alec Martinez. I don't think you should trade Brady McNabb. If I'm the Vegas Golden Knights, if I need to get rid of $2.7 million of cap space, what I would recommend is that you go to William Karlsson and you trade him to a team like Winnipeg, for example, for literally nothing. You trade a guy like William Karlsson and you send him to a team that actually has cap space, like the Arizona Coyotes, just to get him off your books. Now, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, that's going to replace the guy in the top 6. That is going to leave a gap where William Karlsson once was. So, if you look at their depth chart and you compare who the Vegas Golden Knights have right now, it actually leaves a door open for Nicholas Waugh. It actually will leave a window open so that a guy like Nicholas Waugh, maybe somebody like a Brett Howden, can take advantage of it. They're 24 years old, 23 years old, respectively. They're young. They're in their prime. They will make it work. So the Vegas Golden Knights, and we're talking about them right now here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media. If you get rid of William Karlsson and his $5.9 million cap hit until 2027, it is going to benefit the Vegas Golden Knights. It's going to benefit the NHL because the Vegas Golden Knights have to get rid of one player. They have to get rid of one guy. And if there was one other person I could consider, if there was one more person that they could use as a way to dump salary, I would actually say look at somebody like a Jonas Romberg, or maybe look at somebody like that who would be able to get the job done in terms of how to shed cap space. Now, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, I actually like the roster somewhat. I actually like what they have potential-wise. However, I just wonder if this is a Vegas Golden Knights organization that is going to be able to recover from what they've done the past 2 off seasons. So as we're talking about the Vegas Golden Knights here on Sports Angle on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. And continuing with the Vegas Golden Knights, they have some young prospects in their system. They have a really good core that has established. And I do wonder, however, when it comes to the Vegas Golden Knights, how are they going to take those young prospects, those 20-year-old, 21-year-old, 22-year-olds? How are they going to transition those guys into premier players? How are they going to take those AHL or those AAA players and get them up to the majors? Because you have a guy like Brendan Bryson, who was their first-round pick a while ago. You have guys like Danny Myromanov, the Russian defenseman. You got Kaden Korzak from the Czech Republic, a skilled defenseman on that end. The Vegas Golden Knights, they have young talent waiting in the wings. They just can't get it going. So here's what my recommendation would be. Here's what I believe should happen is that if you're the Vegas Golden Knights, I think that you need to gradually bring up those guys. You need to gradually bring up a guy like Danny Myromanov. You need to slowly bring up a Kaden Korzak. Because understand that with the NHL, this is a team that is loaded with talent. This is an organization that is really good at building up young defensemen like a Zach Whitecloud and Shea Theodore, but they need to let it sit in the oven for a while, let them bake, and then eventually let them grow into NHL players. And with the NHL, there's also been a lot of reports about the top lineups in the NHL. There's been all these conversations about really who has the best lineups in the NHL. Because, understand that when it comes to the NHL, those lines is what builds a team. Understand that if you do not have a great line, if you do not have a fantastic organization, you're not going to be able to do things correctly. So what we're going to do here on Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio, the voice of new media, is I'm actually going to break down the top 10 lines for the NHL. I'm kind of going to go step by step and explain to you what are the top 10 lines in the NHL today. Now, at number 10 is a little bit of a surprising one. At number 10, you've got a situation where you have an organization that has a lot of good core. They are built solidly. However, it is a question mark how they're going to do long term. It is a question mark how they are going to be long term wise. So at number 10 would be the New York Rangers. Understand that the New York Rangers organization, they have built that roster to be a long term solution. Understand that the New York Rangers, the blue sweaters out there with the New York Rangers, their starting lineup and their depth chart is built on consistency. You have Alexei Lafreniere, you have Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, three of the best goal scorers out there. You have Chris Kreider, Vincent Trocheck. You paid him a lot of money to come from Carolina. And you have the young 21-year-old Kaapo Kakko to be your young pillar out there in New York. However, on your bottom six, you even have some young talent like Samuel Belize. You have Julian Gauthier, Barclay Goodrow, who you got from Tampa Bay, and you have an established veteran in Ryan Reeves as your enforcer. So the New York Rangers being at number 10, I actually think is a very good situation because you got to understand the New York Rangers, they have built that roster around their forwards. They built that roster around that team. So at number 10 would be the New York Rangers led by Artemi Panarin and Mika Zibanejad. Number 9 is a surprising team, but when you understand the young memo that they have, it makes it a lot more sense. At number 9, you have the New Jersey Devils. You have Jesper Bratt. You have Jack Hughes. You have Andre Palat, who you paid $6 million to get from the Tampa Bay Lightning, who won back-to-back cups. You have Igor Sharangovich, Nico Hischier. You have Dawson Mercer, the 20-year-old who you drafted in the first round a couple of years ago. That is a young core that has been built over the last 4 years. You have Andreas Johansson. You have Eric Haula, the former Vegas Golden Knight, and teaming up with Tomas Tatar, the former Vegas Golden Knight. So you have stability on the third line, you have youth on the second line, and you have your goal scoring on the first line. That is consistent. You also got to take the fact that they have a fighting enforcer with Nathan Bastian on the fourth line, Michael McLeod, and Miles Wood. And you have an organization who is being built off of stability and consistency. So number 10 would be the New York Rangers. Number 9 would be the New Jersey Devils. At number 8, when it comes to the best lineups in the NHL, at number 8 would be the Calgary Flames. Now, on the surface, the Calgary Flames should not be anywhere near the top 10 until you consider what they got back in the Matthew Tkachuk trade. Until you understand what they got back with Johnny Gaudreau leaving, it's important. Because them getting Jonathan Huberdeau, getting Elias Lindholm, and Tyler Toffoli are massive signings and massive deals for the Calgary Flames. Having a guy like Andrew Magipin, bringing him back at a $5.8 million cap hit for a couple of years, that's going to bring stability. Blake Coleman, who you brought over from Tampa Bay, he was brought in to be a safety cushion. And Sean Monahan, Dylan Dubé, and Milan Lucic, they are names that are going to be impressive out there with the NHL. So when it comes to the Calgary Flames at number 8, it's about the stability of that lineup and why they are at number 8. At number 7 would be the team that won the President's Trophy last year, an organization that got stronger by adding Matthew Tkachuk, and that is Florida Panthers. You have Sam Reinhart, Alexander Barkov, and Matthew Tkachuk. You have guys who all scored over 30 goals last year. Tkachuk had 104 points, Reinhart 82, and Barkov 88. That is an impressive duo. Understand that Sam Bennett, Patrick Hornquist, they added those guys via trades. Ryan Lumberg, they signed him. This is an organization that has taken talent from other organizations and have put them in Florida to benefit. So I would say the Florida Panthers, they would be at number 7 when it comes to the best lineups in the NHL. And I mentioned the Vegas Golden Knights, and I talked about what they had to give up this offseason. Well, thankfully, they're the reason why Carolina is at number 6. The Carolina Hurricanes, having Max Pacioretty and Sebastian Aho, will be an excellent 1-2 punch. Understand that Max Pacioretty is a 30-plus goal scorer. Sebastian Aho could be a 40-plus goal scorer in the NHL. That's a lot of goals that you're going to put on the scoreboard. You have Andrei Shevchenko, you have Jesperi Kotkaniemi, and Teuvo Teravainen. So you have a bunch of guys coming from overseas who light up the lamp. You have Jordan Montouk, you have Jordan Staal, you have Jesper Fast. Understand that the Carolina Hurricanes top 9 is built on consistency. They are built on guys who are going to score over 20 goals in the NHL. So at number 6 would be Carolina, number 7, Florida, number 8, Calgary, number 9, New Jersey, and number 10 would be the New York Rangers. At number 5 is a team that would have never been on this list even a year ago if they didn't build their roster. Understand, this is a team that went from being one of the worst lines in the NHL to being the best in the span of 12 months. Understand that the Edmonton Oilers getting Connor McDavid some help by bringing in Zach Hyman, by bringing in Evander Kane, by signing Matthias Janmark. Understand that the Edmonton Oilers decided to use their head and bring in talent to help the best hockey player in the world. Look, Connor McDavid scores 44 goals and has 120 points a year. That's great. But understand that Evander Kane will help ease the burden of Connor McDavid. Zach Hyman will ease the burden of Connor McDavid. Understand that Matthias Janmark will add some relief to the bottom 6 for Edmonton. So at number 5 would be the Edmonton Oilers. Number 4 is a team of the offseason, and that's the Columbus Blue Jackets. Having Patrick Laine, Johnny Gaudreau, and Boone Jenner as your first line, that is going to be one heck of a trio. You got to add the veteran leadership of Jacob Voracek and Gustav Nyquist. and a 25-year-old with still potential in Jack Roslovic, you have a Columbus Blue Jackets team that is being built for the future while having current stuff. You have 19-year-old Kent Johnson, who you drafted top 5 overall. You have Kirill Marchenko. You have Cole Slinginger. You have Alexander Texier. Understand that the Columbus Blue Jackets organization has young guys on the bottom 6 and has old guys in the top 6. So I like what Columbus has done, them being at number 4. In third place is the Boston Bruins organization. I hate to point out the obvious, but the Boston Bruins have one of the most consistent lineups in the NHL. Having a MVP with Taylor Hall, having a guy in David Pastrnak who could score 40 goals a year. You have Jake DeBrusk, you have Pavel Zacha, you have Craig Smith. The Boston Bruins are going to be able to do what they've done for the last 8 years. The Boston Bruins are consistent, they are reliable, and they will get the job done in the NHL with the Boston Bruins. At number 2 is the defending Stanley Cup champions, and that is the Colorado Avalanche. Their top 9 is the best in all of hockey. Understand that Andrew Cogliano, having an 21-year-old Alex Newhook, and bringing in Arturi Lehkonen from the Montreal Canadiens, that was a good move. Having Nathan McKinnon, having Gabriel Landeskog, having Mikko Rantanen is a solid job for the Colorado Avalanche. Understand that bringing those guys is going to be a big deal for the Colorado Avalanche organization. And understand that if it wasn't for this first team, the Colorado Avalanche would be first. Understand that if it wasn't for this organization who has spent all their money on their lineup, I wouldn't even be talking about Colorado being number 2. Understand that the Toronto Maple Leafs organization is the reason why I have them at number 1. There is no mistaking that from top to bottom, the Toronto Maple Leafs, having Michael Bunting, the rookie, who scored 60 points last year. You have Mitch Marner, who scored 97. Austin Matthews, who scored 106. Alex Kerfoot hit 50. John Tavares hit 75. William Nylander hit 80. This entire lineup has been built on scoring points, and scoring points. So Toronto Maple Leafs, I would have them as the best lineup in the NHL right now. Colorado would be second, Boston third, Columbus in fourth, Edmonton fifth, Carolina sixth, Florida seventh, Calgary eighth, New Jersey ninth, and New York would be 10th. I got to give an honorable mention to the Minnesota Wild. I'd have them at 11. Pittsburgh, I would have them as an honorable mention as well. Just understand that the rest of the league just really does not hold up to the rest of that top 10 when it comes to the NHL. So as we're talking about the NHL here on the Sports Angle on PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, I'm your host, Ian Rickelli. Follow me on social media at IanRickelli18 and follow the show at Sports Angle on PR. I also want to give a shout out to, once again, Dennis Holmes from the Ignoranthinkers podcast. Thank you for coming on the show. I definitely appreciate that. As well, I appreciate Guy Dawson and all the people on PR Connections Radio for putting on this great content. I also highly recommend checking out shows like We Got the Power with We Have Brian Gardner. You have So You Want to Be a ... Brian Gardner also does that show. Aunt Shirley, I like her content. She is a really interesting person to definitely watch. You also have Sandra out there with Voices of Humanity. And you also have the Guy Dawson show. You got Classic Communications and everything going on there. So the PRConnectionsRadio.com, the voice of new media, go check out all of their content and everything that they do. So we have about 15 minutes left here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. So it's time to get into our Vegas segment here on the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. Now, there's a lot of people, including myself, who love what's going on in Las Vegas. I will say the Las Vegas Aviators right now, go to Las Vegas ballpark. They have incredible situations. They have one of the best ballparks in all of minor league baseball. So if you're in Las Vegas, or if you simply want to be in a baseball town, go to the Las Vegas Aviators, go out to the Las Vegas ballpark and check out all the content they have on there. You have the Las Vegas Aviators, one game above 500. They're taking on their big brother in the Reno Aces, and having the battle of the Silver State is incredible. I also want to point out that the Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio will be doing media this weekend at Las Vegas Ballpark. We're going to be having our media credentials at the Las Vegas Aviators game. We'll be posting content on there. Definitely go check out all of the content that we put out here on Sports Angle at PR Connections Radio, as we will be at the Aviators game this weekend against the Reno Aces. Also, I will say for the Las Vegas Aviators, there's been some games that have been called up. There's been some games that have been called down. However, one promotion that they have is the $2 beer night. They took this from Cashman Field. They brought it over to the Las Vegas ballpark. That's correct, ladies and gentlemen. If you go to Las Vegas ballpark on Thursday night, you're going to have a $2 beer night. And of course, the cutoff is around the 7th inning. But before the 7th inning, if you got $20, you could buy 10. You could buy 10 things of beer. So $2 beer night Thursday nights at Las Vegas ballpark. You also have Firework Fridays at Las Vegas ballpark. They have this fantastic firework extravaganza at Las Vegas ballpark. So I would highly recommend, if you're in the Las Vegas area, going to Las Vegas ballpark and checking out all the content they have there. Also, I will say the Las Vegas Aces, the WNBA. I have been watching the Las Vegas Aces this season. I'm very happy to say that they are 12 games above 500. Right now, they have clinched a playoff berth and are 2 games above Seattle in the division. Also, I will say that the Las Vegas Aces, I've watched their recent games, and I will say that having the number 2 seed and having them do what they're doing right now, I am very happy with what the Las Vegas Aces have been doing. They got Kelsey Plum, you have Ajay Wilson, Chelsea Gray, Jackie Young. So I will say Las Vegas Aces are definitely a great team to watch. And I've been very supportive of the Las Vegas Aces here on PRConnectionsRadio.com. And there's also been the report that has come out that UNLV basketball will be playing a trio of exhibition games in Canada. That's right. UNLV Running Rebels, they will be going to Canada to play a 3-game exhibition in August, and that is going to be a fantastic idea. I believe that if you're a Canadian or if you're just somebody who loves watching basketball, the fact that they're going to go up against the University of British Columbia, they're going to go up against the University of Calgary, those Dinos. So I will say that the Canadian tour in Vancouver, British Columbia, UNLV versus British Columbia, and UNLV versus University of Calgary, that will be August 16th and August 17th. So definitely mark that on your calendar. Go check that out. And we have about 10 minutes left here on the show. So I'm going to recommend real quick that if you are a Las Vegas Raiders fan, there's some good storylines that came out of the Hall of Fame game. Them winning 27-11 was an excellent idea. However, there was a storyline that came out of the Hall of Fame game that has been unmentioned. There has been a story that's come out of the Hall of Fame game that I want to bring up to everyone here. The running back position for the Las Vegas Raiders, Josh Jacobs has been the best running back in the NFL from the Las Vegas Raiders over the last 3 or 4 years. I understand that ever since he got drafted from Alabama, he has been a guy that has been there for a good amount of time. However, I want you to understand that they declined his 5th-year option. I want you to understand that Josh Jacobs has not been brought back from the Las Vegas Raiders, and the rookie performance by 4th-round pick Zamir White could turn heads. I understand that Zamir White had a breakout performance in the Hall of Fame game. I understand that Josh Jacobs did not have any touches right now for the Las Vegas Raiders. I understand that when it comes to Josh Jacobs, this is a guy that really has been abandoned by Las Vegas. And yes, I know that somebody earlier in the show said that I was going to be in a lot of trouble for going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. But you know what? I have 8 minutes left. I can say whatever I want. This is Sports Angle on PR Connections Radio. Josh Jacobs has been abandoned by Las Vegas. I understand that Josh Jacobs and what was being shown at the Hall of Fame game is that they want Zamir White, the 4th round pick, to be the guy. If they want Zamir White to be a guy who's going to have more touches and more carries this season in Las Vegas than Josh Jacobs going to. As a matter of fact, my angle on this is that do not be surprised if by week 1 is 50-50. Zamir White will have half the touches and Josh Jacobs will have half the touches. I will not be shocked if by end of the season, Josh Jacobs is let go. He is not brought back from Las Vegas. And rookie Zamir White ends up being the new Josh Jacobs in Las Vegas. Now, seriously, I won't be surprised at all. I will not be shocked if Zamir White ends up being the new RB1 in Las Vegas. Because he had an excellent performance in the Hall of Fame game, and this is a team that clearly has shown that Josh Jacobs is not part of their long-term future. They are not part of the long-term build here at Allegiant Stadium, here in Las Vegas, the sports entertainment capital of the world. And UNLV football, they announced their schedule for the 2022 season. And to say that this is going to be a rough calendar would be an understatement. So they got to go up against Idaho State in the beginning of the season. You know what? That's going to be a layup, kind of an easy competition. And then they got to go up against Cal on September 10th. They got to go up against Utah State on September 24th. They have to go up against San Jose State. Got to go up against the Fighting Irish in Notre Dame on October 22nd. And then got to go up against 4 competitive teams back to back, going up against San Diego State on November 5th, Fresno State on November 11th, Hawaii on November 19th, and the Nevada Wolfpack in the Battle of the Fremont Cannon on November 26th. So the UNLV Rebels revealing their schedule for college football. You know, I look at this team and honestly, and this is nothing against Marcus Arroyo, it's not. But when I compare the Las Vegas Rebels, when I see UNLV, I really do not look at this organization as more than a couple of wins this year. As a matter of fact, I will be surprised if the UNLV Rebels go less than 2-10. To me, that's what the UNLV Rebels are going to be. They're going to be 2-10, maybe 3-9 on the year, but I really do not see the UNLV Running Rebels winning more than 2 games this year with the schedule being released. Yes, you have Idaho State, you have North Texas, maybe New Mexico, but the rest of that schedule are going to be dogfight after dogfight with UNLV. I want to know from all people watching around the world, though, do you even care about UNLV? Like, be honest. Do you even care about the UNLV Running Rebels? Do you even care much about the UNLV Rebels football team? Because here in Las Vegas, they show some attention to it, but I'm genuinely curious to the outside world. Does UNLV even hit your radar at all? Because the UNLV Rebels are probably going to win 2 games max this year, and I'm being generous at that. So this is the Sports Angle. I'm your host, Ian Rakelli. That was our Las Vegas segment, where he broke down the Las Vegas Aces, them clinching a playoff berth in the WNBA. You had the Las Vegas Aviators, them doing Fireworks Friday and $2 beer night on Thursday. You also have the report about UNLV basketball going up to Canada to play University of British Columbia and University of Calgary and some exhibition games in Canada. You also have UNLV football release their football schedule. They're going to win 2 games maybe all year long. And lastly, there was the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. The NASCAR races are going to be here in October. Get your tickets now. Go to lvms.com. Check out all of the tickets and all the programming at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. I also want to give a shout out to all the content on prconnectionsradio.com. Brian Gardner, Sandra, Shirley, Guy, all the people that put in the time and the effort here on PR Connections Radio. Wanted to give the last 2 minutes and give a shout out to all of them. The Professionals podcast, they did a show recently here on PR Connections Radio. Nailed it out of the park. So Professionals podcast, I definitely highly recommend them. You also have Sandra with Voices of Humanity. So plenty of great content here on prconnectionsradio.com, the voice of new media. And next week, episode 21, the AFC preview of the 2022 NFL season. I'm going to have a guest come on who knows his stuff. I'm going to have a guy who comes on who knows about the NFL, someone who's very knowledgeable, someone who's very respected when it comes to what he says in the NFL world. So stay tuned to episode 21 for next week, Friday night, 7 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern. I would highly recommend watching that show because if you enjoyed this episode, you're going to definitely like next week's episode, episode 21. I also want to say we are on all social media platforms on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok at Sports Angle on PR. That's Sports Angle on PR. And also follow your host at Ian Rakelli18. I also upload a lot of content onto my personal page as well. So follow me at Ian Rakelli18 and follow the show at Sports Angle on PR. And until next time, have a great one. Have a safe weekend. Be with your family. Be with your loved ones. Stay safe. Have a good time. And I definitely recommend watching the NFL this season. It's going to be a fantastic season in the NFL. So until next time, have a good one, and we will see you later.